You have to be that captain of your ship, right? You have to direct what's going on. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of whatever is coming at you.
I'm Amy Woodall, and this is Conscious Habit, a show from the People Forward Network, teaching you how to incorporate love and consciousness at work, home, and the world at large. You just heard from Sondra Kellogg. She and her dad, Paul Kellogg, are my guest in this episode, and they're both coaches who specialize in helping people understand and tap into their individual energies and abilities. I'll be honest with you, this is a pretty woo conversation, but in all the right ways because it's equally rooted in science and practical application. Paul, Sondra, and I break down the impact our internal energy can have on us physically and mentally, and even discuss the language of energy. But first, we dig into not only what consciousness means to this duo, but how they also define spirit. And for being father and daughter, their answers are so beautifully different. Conscious Habit listeners, we have a first. I get to interview a duo today, and I'm going to say a dynamic duo, a father daughter duo, although both very conscious and each in their own way. And I'm so excited to learn from both of you today. I want to welcome to the show Paul and Sondra Kellogg. I am so delighted to have you with us on the Conscious Habit podcast.
Thank you, Amy. Yes, very excited to be here. It's always a pleasure to share with people in that kind of high vibe, high state of consciousness flow. So I'm excited to be with you. I'm excited to just have some good, authentic chats and share what's in my heart.
And ditto, 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 and ditto. It's great to be here with you, Amy. This is such a pleasure when you get a chance to just relax and share from the heart about consciousness and spirit and so on. There's nothing that jazzes me up more than that.
Yeah, it's such a testament to connection, right? Because the way that we all got connected was through Nikki Llewellyn, who is the founder of People Forward Network, which the Conscious Habit Show is hosted on. And it was actually through your husband, Sondra, that your husband knows Nikki because he's a partner. And then we were introduced and we realized that our work is so aligned and our philosophies are so aligned. And I'm excited to be a student today and really ask you questions from the lens of the listener as well. And I kick off every single episode just leaning in with curiosity of wondering what the heck does consciousness mean to you? I love that every person I've had on has shared a different definition. So I'm going to kick it to you two. What does consciousness mean to you?
I love a lot of the responses, and I think there's such beauty in just the question itself, because the fact that I'm thinking about what consciousness is brings me into consciousness. For me, I would describe it as kind of two parts. One, it's that acceptance of the perfection that I am and that you are. And at the same time, having this active involvement in my growth and expansion. And when I'm dialed into those two things, everything else kind of falls into place. I'm present, right? I'm that captain of my ship. I'm directing my thoughts, my energy, what I choose to be involved in, what I don't, right? The hell yes is the hell no's. I'm in that state of gratitude and love and peace inside. So that's the umbrella that I would put it all under for me.
That's really beautiful. What about for you, Paul?
Yeah, I think for me, Amy, as you asked that question earlier, I was reflecting on it, and I am at my most awareness when I'm in action. Sandra alluded to that. It's a feeling of being out and engaged in life. There's a difference between sitting quietly in introspection and feeling consciousness, which I can, but the openness and oneness of being aware of all things as I'm out doing things. And there's nothing more dynamic in terms of that oneness than being involved in the life. There's something about being observing of life and being involved in life. And our whole engagement, the way Sandra experienced things with Susan and I and our methods and techniques, all of our children actually did that. It was an action. We have a particular program called Meditation in Action. It's not a sit and be quiet inside. It's allowing myself to be attuned all the time, even in a challenging situation, even in a troubling situation. How do I maintain that attunement and my own consciousness of myself inside of those dynamic experiences throughout life?
Mm. I wanna just highlight maybe one thing from each of you, but Sandra, when you said, like, I can tap into that I'm already perfect, essentially, that, like, this perfection is within me. I would just like perfectionist and high
Yeah.
achievers to just take double note of that, of you don't have to earn it, it's with you, it came with you on this planet, it's gonna leave with you after your body goes to where whatever your personal belief is happens. We just have to recognize it and be willing to be with it instead of feeling like we have to constantly grow. And I love that you had additionally said in my perfection, but also expansion. So being and knowing I'm good now, there's nothing else I have to prove. And also, I can grow, but not growing because I have something I have to heal or to get to, just because I can. And it's this really cool, beautiful thing of my like spiritual unfolding. And then for Paul, can I tell you, I've been so guilty of this. For a long time, I was a really good consciousness practicer in my meditation. And then I would drive down the highway and use every four-letter word possible to man. And I realized I'm not truly living. Like, what's the point of being conscious if I only do it 20 to 30 minutes a day in my morning meditation?
Right.
That does not create a happy life. And so I love that yours is about experience and in action. How do we dance with the world and how do we commune with the world? I think that's really beautiful. And it speaks so much to the work that you all are doing in the world, each of you in your own unique way, but also in a very collaborative way. And as I was thinking, ooh, there's so much wisdom they can bring, but what have we not really talked about with the listeners? It's energy, it is spirit.
I was going to say the same exact thing. Yeah.
When you think of that, I'm in an executive peer group that I love. It's been really, really impactful. And we always talk about sort of, hey, where's your spirit? Where's your mind? Where's your, and I remember someone saying, I don't really know what that means. When you say spirit, like I have a hard time wrapping my mind around that. And I thought, wow, they can't be alone in this. So I know I asked you for your definition of consciousness, but what the hell does spirit mean? What does energy mean? How do I know what it is? How do I tap into it? Can we just geek out on that for a minute?
For me, there you can get very woo about it or you can get scientific about it, right? There's, the science explanation, energy can't be created or destroyed. So it's eternal. And then that woo part of it is just, it's that soul energy that is for me eternal. It doesn't end. That's where the consciousness lies, is that soul energy. I'm the sum total of all of the experiences that I've had and the wisdom that I've garnered from that. And that's the place that I always come from, whether I'm talking to businesses and I'm keeping it very practical and mindset oriented, or whether I'm working with individuals that want to grow into that more and lean into that more. There's something bigger, right? There's something bigger than this flesh and bones and brain that I have. That is that soul energy to me in its simplest form.
Yeah. And I think that scientifically, everything's energy. I'm energy, my electromagnetic force that runs my nervous system, and so on. There's a life force there. There's a uniqueness that we have as being intelligent energy. We direct ourselves, we make decisions, and so on. But everything's energy. I think one of the cool things to parlay into that, let's do action kind of stuff, Amy, and people can listen at home and try this, is to shake your hands like this, like you're wringing off water. And then put your hands about 2 inches apart with your fingers very, very relaxed. Don't hold them stiff. And very gently let your hands move in and out from each other. And describe what it is that you feel there.
I would say that you can feel almost a heaviness between the hands because you can sense the
Yeah,
energy that's moving. I feel some warmth too. Like if I'm thinking about there's some warmth that's happening.
there you go. And do you feel that magnetic kind of thing, that kind of pushy pulley
Yeah, I
kind
would
of?
say that's the heaviness of kind of feeling like there's a bit of friction happening there.
There you go. Sana, what do you feel today?
A lot of times I feel the reverse magnet. So it's like I'm trying to push two magnets together that are reversed and they want to force my hands out.
There you go. And for me, I just feel a lot of tingliness. Just like there's some connection going on between my fingers and my hands. So that's just a simple demonstration of the electromagnetic energy, the heat, That's all energy. And when people talk in the spiritual circles about the aura, the emanation of that energy out from the physical body, all they're doing is talking or referencing or seeing the glow of what that energy is. When I was a kid, I thought there was something wrong with my eyes because I look out at the sky and there'd be telephone wires or electric. I'd see a little glow around the wires. Somebody else, well, you're just seeing the energy. Well, we have that. Every living thing has that kind of aura of experience, and it's governed by how we think and how we feel. And a lot of the work that we do is to help people learn to uplift that energy, raise it up. People that do healing work, there's a transfer of energy that's there so that you can help, as you said earlier on, to uplift that spirit or the energy of that person. So it's incredibly dynamic. That energy is what makes us have ESP or psychicness, if you will, or just that gut instinct. That energy governs that intuitive side of life. So that's just one simple little demonstration. And the other thing I'll tell you is that we do a lot of techniques to help people learn to use that energy to self heal. It's great to go and get a massage or get an energy treatment or something from somebody else. But what do you do between the appointments? How do you maintain that? Like you said, when I get out in the car, how do I keep that calm energy? And so we do a lot of things to help people make that aura almost a filtering system, a buffering, so that you're not picking up things from the outside and letting that force you to be reactive to things rather than being calm and proactive about it.
I think for anybody that's listening, if this feels new to you or you're like, I don't know. Some of you will be like, yes, I get that. And some might be like, I don't know. If you've ever walked into a room and you could sense that like a television was on, or you knew a
There you go.
microwave was going, or you just walked into a room and you felt a bad vibe, or you're like, something's off here. I don't feel safe, or I'm kind of like weirded out or something. That is the picking up the information of vibration, of energy. And the thing is that there's not a language around it, it's its own language in itself. And what is the language of vibration? How would you kind of describe what the language is? Is it our feelings? Is it emotions? What is the language in which the energy or the soul speaks?
So it's interesting that you say language because that is actually a term we use sometimes because you have intuition. Paul spoke to that. And that's more of a common phrase now, which is to me very exciting because when I was a kid and my parents were talking this, that was pretty, cray cray. But now the fact that people are really, they recognize that they do have that gut instinct. They do have just those, like I'm called to do something and I don't really know why. All of that is lumped under this term intuition, but for us, we kind of talk about it in one of 4 ways. So some people really operate more out of that inner knowing, right? If you ever talk to somebody and they just say, "I don't know how I know, I just know." It's that
Mm-hmm.
person, and that's their intuition being filtered, right? That's the way they work with their communication of with that energy. Then you have the feeling people, right? My husband is very strong in this. Oftentimes you'll see him kind of his hands are outstretched and he doesn't even know why. It's because he's literally like feeling the vibration of something, almost like if you'd say somebody that they've lost a particular physical sense, right? Maybe they're blind or they have to dial into the actual physical vibrations, right, that are happening. Well, that feeling part is doing that. They're just doing it at a more unconscious level. You have those that have that kind of clear hearing where they will actually hear messages, right? I might hear Amy Woodall, and all of a sudden you're sending me an email or something like that. It's just like these little quick things that will tap into us. And then you have the vision, right? The people that are very highly visual, they'll see colors, like they'll see signs, they will recognize things in the people that actually can do visualizations very easily. They typically have a very strong sense of this. I was listening, I think it was to your podcast with, was it Desiree? And talking about doing visualization and how, yeah, there's so many people that are like, I just can't visualize. I really have trouble doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to help them dial into, okay, well, what does it feel like,
Yeah.
right? What is that sense? All of that, that is how we kind of culminate that together. So the language, I don't know if that exactly answered your question, but the language of energy is something that it's just pulses, right? It's reverberations, and we have to somehow process that as human beings, and that's how we do that.
And it can be tough. I think what happens sometimes, and I would love to hear your feedback on this, is people often get so disconnected from that energy or that intuition that however it's coming to or through them because we lean more into our thinking than we do the feeling. And all of it matters, right? We are mind, body, spirit, all of this stuff comes together. But the thinking can be distracting. We are likely never going to find like total peace in our mind. Peace is a soul's job. Like that's the soul's kind of purpose. It's probably not going to happen in our mind. So for those folks who are like they're not necessarily tapped into it or don't have a good practice of doing that, their mind thinks a lot. They kind of believe all the thoughts that they're thinking. What how do you coach them? What kind of feedback or suggestions do you give?
One of the first things is to help them to realize that how much they do it already. We all have feelings. We all have hunches. We all experience these things. We know things without being told, like Sandra said. We walk into the office. For many listeners, that some of our main consciousness is in the workplace, and the interactions with people, and we will naturally gravitate, create actions that represent what we're experiencing with that energy. So a good example is if somebody's shaking their finger at you or pointing at you, what naturally do we do?
I'm a rebellious child, Paul. I would be like, "I don't know who you think you are."
Yeah. A lot of people they'll kind of pull back a little bit. They'll kind of move their body back or lean back away from that energy coming at them. That's one of the beautiful things that I feel in our work that has been helpful not only to me, but the people that I've met around the world is we are very experiential about things. So just like sensing the energy in your hands. And a story that might illustrate this very well. I was doing a workshop in New York years ago, and we were talking about energy and demonstrating energy and helping people to relax and so on. Well, this particular method, it was a kind of a self-healing technique. And this woman was standing up. You could tell she was of the country of India origin or somewhere there. She was standing up and she was starting to do this method that we were instructing her in. And all of a sudden she looked up, she got like fear in her face, and she sat back down and she wouldn't participate in things anymore. And on a break, I went up to her and I said, "Are you okay? How are you doing? And what was happening for you?" And she was very sincere about it. She said, "Well, when I started to relax and you started to help me raise the energy up, I started to feel this chill going up my spine." And she says, "In our country, they call that Kundalini." And she says, "In my particular sect of Hinduism, in my part of the country, only men are allowed to have that and experience that. And so I wasn't doing it because I'm not supposed to." And so I said, "Well, you're here in this country right now, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's male or female. You're going to have that experience no matter what. And so why don't you try it and see if that works for you?" So she did. And later on, and she felt such a peace inside to let go of the idea that she is not legally able to experience that and just allow herself to be with that. So I think sometimes we have experiences and our concepts or our training or dogmas keep us from having those experiences a little bit more. Just a sample, but that happens to people all the time.
Amy, I feel when you were speaking and you talked again about the language of energy and you mentioned the mind, right? One of the things that I work with people first and foremost is quieting that active monkey mind, right? The because our we're so highly developed as humans, right? That mind is just chicka 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 chicka. And that's really not where the intuition lies. We often say that you need to have just enough intellect to organize yourself to accomplish what you have a feeling for. And so that feeling part is really where it's at. And I would even separate that out from the difference between emotions. The emotions are kind of the things that we feel that are attached to a story a lot of time, right? And just bring it back to that pure feeling. What is it that I'm having a feeling for? What am I feeling? So if we can quiet the mind a bit and learn to relax that and then bring out that feeling part to recognize what am I experiencing right now? And it can be so subtle, right? I know when I'm experiencing anger, I know when I'm experiencing tremendous levels of stress. But am I able to really recognize my really truly relaxed state? Because when I can recognize that, then I know a lot quicker when I'm getting off of it. Even to the point where, like, I was doing preparation for something, I think it was this call yesterday. I was just kind of writing down my thoughts, right? And I could feel my energy, my all of a sudden my body was kind of leaning in, right? I could feel a little bit of intensity in my energy. And so I kind of had to stop and go, okay, wait a minute. What am I getting caught in? Because I have this desire to, make an impact in the world. Even that can bring me out of that place of peace. If I'm so dialed into that, then I'm not really relaxed and listening to that still soft voice within. And that to me is, if I were going to generalize what that language of energy is, that to me is that.
What I'm hearing you say is you have to know your baseline in order to know when you're off of it. And we all have different paths of getting to that baseline. For some folks, maybe it's very easy for them to know because they have such radical self awareness or awareness of kind of their own being or body. I think empaths can be good at that. What empaths might struggle with is knowing and discerning what's their energy versus what someone else's. And so they may think that their baseline is this accumulation of everybody else's stuff. But I want to make this very practical for our folks who are on here. The reason we're talking about energy and spirit and tapping back into this and the feeling and the belief is the ripple effect of being disconnected is burnout, lack of creativity. The I don't give a damn. I don't care about my job. I don't care about relationships. I just don't care about anything. Feeling like you're so far off track. And I've been there and you feel lost. And what we're often looking for are those new experiences outside of us to help us be found, and we'll never find them. We may find ourselves temporarily, but as soon as there's something that's challenging that happens in one of those external situations, we'll be right back to where we were before. And it can be a beautiful place and a beacon for us to say, hey, my okayness and feeling good or connected or joyful or peaceful, what all of us want, we just seek it in different ways. That's an internal thing. So, how do I tap into that? And what are the practices that you guide folks to if they're like, "Hey, I want to hang out with peace. I want to connect to spirit. I want to get rid of the shit I might be picking up from other people." What do you walk them through?
Well, first and foremost, I think what you just said there is actually what I start with is really identifying how do you want to feel. I just did a retreat recently for a business, and the first thing we did was, okay, take a moment and decide how you want to feel at the end of this year. What's one word that describes that feeling? Right? And utilize that as your benchmark for the rest of the year. And then find that word that's the opposite of that. And then we did a little practice that where people could really realize that if they just focused on that word and felt it, and then focused on the other word and felt it, it dramatically changed their energy. And from that place, when they're focused on that positive word, they're more productive, they're more effective, the less burnout, they're more fulfilled inside. So, whatever that is, I start with that because you have to be that captain of your ship, right? You have to direct what's going on. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of whatever is coming at you.
So it sounds like step one is intention. Get very intentional about what do I want? What is ideal for me?
Yes.
Love that. Love that.
And most people have a hard time doing that because we are so programmed to engage other people's thoughts or opinions or ideas from the time that we're children. We grow up with the outer authorities, whether it's our parents or in the classroom and so on. We look to the outside to give us direction. And as you said earlier, as a child, I'm the one that comes at it and goes back. The more that I honor and value that as a parent, for example, or as someone that's in the workplace, I can see that this person has a genius or shy about sharing it, the more I help them to express themselves and be themselves. And I think that's another piece of it, Amy, is as I look at the work that I do, one of the biggest things that helps people with that is finding other like-minded people to interact with and engage with, to share with, to express, because oftentimes we feel so alone in trying to find inner peace. What the heck is inner peace? Well, just like we're having the conversation right now, inner peace or conscious means different things. For me to be able to hear that, and for me to be able to be accepted and honored for what I do feel and what I do express, that in itself helps people to begin to find their niche of what that piece can mean to them. And as Sandra said, as they begin to define it more, exactly how they want to feel. So that sense of belonging, that sense of interactiveness and inclusion, to me is really important. Finding those tribes, finding those clans of people, doing the retreats. How amazing it is when people learn from each other and find new techniques and methods. There is nothing that's wrong out there when it comes to self growth and self development.
And I think, when you're able to do that in again, that like-minded setting, I'm gonna go very woo. The audience already knows I put the woo in wood all y'all. Like, we're gonna bring it in. We'll try to make it back as practical as possible, but we love some woo. So with the tribe, when you're in that like energy, it opens up things in you that you may have closed in the presence of other people where you don't feel safe. But when we're in that space, we then, I think, can be even more aligned with what do I really want and not what's expected of me? What should I want? What would make other people happy if I wanted this or did this? But really learning how to be aligned with, no, damn it, I want this. I don't care if my spouse or I love my children, but it's not about my kids or my coworkers or my parents. This is for me. Do you find people when you're doing these exercises, do they know pretty quickly what they desire, or do people ever struggle with trying to identify?
I definitely work with people who have trouble identifying that. There are definitely different kinds. My husband is a great example of someone that is the totally opposite. He's always known what he wanted. My sister's the same. She wanted to be an actor. She's pursued that her whole life. I was actually one of those people that had that statement, "I don't know what I want," until I really started being truthful with myself and recognizing that I really did know what I want. I just didn't know that I could have it, or I didn't allow myself to even go there and visualize and see myself having it. So I definitely find both sides. And it really is coming back to that space of everyone has their own version of why that happens to them, right? Some could be, I don't think I can have it. Some, I don't think I deserve it, right? So there's all of these things. So it's kind of, you do have to do a little bit of unpacking, right? A little bit of self-awareness to go, okay, well, what is that for me? And that's definitely something that I know that we work with people on when you're talking about what are some of the practices. But then when they do that, now it's okay, let's get in that space. Let's practice because it's really about practice. We can talk so much and we can have the concept of something, but unless we have the experiences of it, it doesn't really fuse. It doesn't become wisdom. It's just kind of knowledge. So we've got to integrate it and incorporate it. There's so many things that we work with that help people just experience that energy of being limitless, right? Of being that energetic being that is here just learning and growing and expanding. And all the things we're involved in are part of that. And every opportunity I have, whether it be work, whether it be a relationship I have, all of that is to help fuel that. So to come back to your point of people saying, well, everyone says that put your mask on first, right? Put your mask on first and then put other people's masks on. Well, to me, that is about being true to me. What do I have a need for? What do I have a feeling for? And I don't have to justify it because as soon as I start justifying, I lead myself to doubt. I lead myself to dishonoring what I feel the need for if I can't justify it well enough. So it's really just being true to that and knowing that when I'm doing that, and I've had so many experiences, good, bad, and ugly, but ultimately beautiful that have brought me to, okay, when I've honored myself and what I need, even when the people around me didn't like it, it ultimately led to beauty and growth for them as well, which led to more connection, which led to more expansion with each other. It strengthens it. And that's something to really, I feel like when people really believe that and people really dial into that, it creates a new sense of freedom inside.
Amy, I wanted to address something that is practical about this. For listeners out there that they're not sure of the woo-woo, or they're not sure of how this can all work. The way that people can begin to identify that there's something in them that wants to come out is they'll have those thoughts of, there's got to be more to life than
Mm.
this. There's got to be something. I know that they have those inklings that there's something beyond the job, or there's something beyond. They have that sense of a calling. There's kind of a yearning to want to do something different with my life. A whole lot of people that we see are people who have that sense of creativity. There's something inside that wants to come out and express itself, and they know that, but they don't know how to bring that out. So they talk that language. You'll hear them talking about, yeah, I was playing music the other day and this song started to come to me, but then I got interrupted with the children. So they have dreams. They have dreams that often seem like they're real, and that the dreams seem like they want to come true, or they maybe do come true. So, and they have these intuitive senses of things. They do go into that boardroom meeting, and they do feel those vibes. So often we find people coming to our workshops and so on that have that, but they don't trust it. They don't think that it's something that they can open up to and expand on. So if people can begin to see if there's some kind of searching for more meaning in life, for more answers, that there's something that wants to open up for you in this bigger way. That's conscious.
Yeah, I think when we that's a many people I've been hearing that so much over the years. I'm sure both of you. And we talk about it a lot, and I'm sure many of us are kind of tired of talking about the post-COVID world. But I think there a lot of people are coming to this realization of this can't be it. Like life cannot just be all about me climbing up the ladder, making more money, chasing the next thing. I even have a keynote that's called achievement fatigue, and talking to people about why we're so tired and burned out, but also why we're so fearful of not chasing, because we've created our identity wrapped around our what we do and not who we are, that's almost we're tired of it, but then we're like, but who am I if I'm not doing this? And so I love that you all are doing this work in the world, and isn't it so inspiring to see so many people called to do this work, and everybody has a different take, and it takes a village and multiple villages to make this work in the world. But I love that what you're going in and doing is teaching people how to connect to that essence of themselves. Because can we talk a little bit about what we might experience if we're disconnected? If I'm a leader, I'm running a company, I am so in my head or my body or externally focused that I have little to no relationship with my spirit or energy or any internal calmness. What am I likely going to experience?
Well, number one, you're going to feel more tired because there's no energy there. There's no life force that's happening. So there's that greater sense of fatigue. There's going to be the energy of being more easily reactive to things out around me because I am not expressing. There's a lot of modalities that talk about protecting yourself from things. So, you center yourself or you do this kind of cleansing or whatever it is to protect yourself. Well, for me, as soon as I start trying to protect myself or defend myself, I'm actually giving energy to whatever it is I'm thinking about, putting energy out to whatever it is I'm trying to protect myself from. So I always say that protection comes in expression. When I am being me and expressing myself, and that aura of me is very expansive, I feel and I'm aware of things way out there. I filter that in. It's easier for me to identify what is me and my feeling. And wait a minute, that headache, I didn't have a headache a minute ago. How come all of a sudden I've got a headache? Well, there's all this upset at the water cooler, whatever it might be. And I'm picking all that up. So if I am out of sorts with that life force, that energy is going to come in on me more quickly. I'm going to become a kind of like a psychic garbage can. I just pick everything up and don't throw it out or throw it away. So that's number one. Number two, there's going to be that questioning that something is wrong with me. My wife Susan has a great saying. She used to be programmed with things. Something's wrong with Susan. Well, some time ago in the meditation, she said, "There's nothing wrong with Susan. The question is, what's wrong with Susan?" And so you start to take yourself away from those positive thinking thoughts, and the negativity thoughts stay there. You don't do a polarity switch with them. You don't flip them. Wait a minute. That's not me. That me negatively thinking about woe and gloom and doom. That's not who I am. But those are symptoms, some of the symptoms that I see that people can, wait a minute, I need to make a change here.
I think that's good. So tired, reactive. We've seen that. Okay, leaders, how many times have you lost it over something very small? And it's because it's this stress buildup, right? That we end up projecting on other people and more negative thinking. Negative thinking is not a behavior trait. I think a lot of times people think that it's just like oh, well, that's just who I am. It's a protection. It's a matter of I'm not connected to the essence of who I really am. I'm more connected to this thinking, and my thinking is mostly hardwired in negativity. It doesn't have to be that way forever. We can shift in. And we're not talking about toxic positivity because to me, toxic positivity is I have an emotion. Oh no, let me think something good, which is actually so not what's supposed to happen. I have an emotion. Oh, let me sit with it. Ooh, let me feel that anger. Ooh, what's going on there? Right. And so I like that you said those because I know leaders. I coach some leaders that I know can definitely relate to this. I can relate to this. And then Sandra, what else might we see if we're disconnected? What comes to mind for you?
Yeah, a couple of other things would be lack of fulfillment. If I'm not feeling fulfilled, there's something off. And that it's like that energy of compulsion. For me, I would describe it as that feeling of being pushed from behind as opposed to like being pulled from the front in my heart, you know? It's like this I must drive, I must achieve kind of feeling. So to me, it's lack. It feels like an energy of lack in one way or another. Loss of enthusiasm. If there's no enthusiasm there for what you're doing, something needs to change, right? Either something internally, the way I'm viewing something, or something externally. Maybe there is a need to shift something in the organization or shift something in the way I'm doing something. But it's definitely an alarm bell when I don't have that enthusiasm and fulfillment. The source of that also has to do with just really being dialed into why am I doing what I'm doing, right? If there's a loss of that, if we forget that bigger picture, then it can lead to all of those things we're talking about.
Everybody who's been able to listen to this episode, I think it's just good to do some self-reflection of like, where am I? Am I feeling fulfilled? Am I feeling like I'm maybe a little more pessimistic? Am I feeling really tired lately? And like we were talking about is we have this tendency of wanting to point the finger at something outside of us and maybe we'll fix it temporarily, but it's going to come back again. And what we've been able to see, and I say we because I know we've all been able to see this, is it does taper creativity. It does get in the way of ultimately results. It gets in the way of collaboration within organizations. Silos are a byproduct of what we are projecting in our role. We really got to work backwards to begin to break some of those things down. So I know we could continue this conversation for another day and a half, and I would personally and like to bring that in. But there's been so much great wisdom dropped here. I would love for you all to share if people are like, okay, I'm intrigued, door open. Where do I go from here, Paul and Sondra?
For us, what we do is the workshops and classes that we do. We do a lot of blogs and inspirational articles and things like that on our websites and so on.
How does our audience stay in touch with each of you?
So my website, sondrakellogg.com, is probably the best way to go about that. That has events, retreats, more information, obviously ways to contact me. So that's where I would direct people to.
Awesome. And Paul?
Yeah, and Sandra and I collaborate on this as well. The soul to soul living, SOUL, and the number two, and then SOUL, and then living, soul to soul living.com. Again, lots of master classes coming up, workshops, private consultation work. We do a lot of work with that, and retreats. We just do it all.
Before we wrap up this episode, here are my 3 takeaways from Paul and Sondra and how we can incorporate their wisdom into our lives. Number 1, are you living consciousness in action? For many years, I was really good at consciousness in only my meditative practice or maybe in my prayer practice and wasn't all that great at it out in the world. And I really loved Paul's take on this of how do we bring it to life and how we interact with everything and everyone. And number 2, self awareness. How aware are you of your thoughts, of your emotions, of what you're feeling in your body? And if we really lean in and go deep, how aware are we of our energy? It's taken a lot of practice for me, honestly. This definitely didn't happen overnight, but I can now feel when my energy is off or frenetic. And I really like their idea of getting comfortable with knowing and understanding your baseline. So then we can more tap into and better understand whether or not it's in or out of alignment for us. And lastly, finding like minded people. Who's in your tribe? Who has aligned goals? Who operates from the same level of thinking or energy as you? Or who's at a place that you desire to be and you're seeking to learn from them? We become like the 5 people that we spend the most time with. Our thinking, our actions begin to mirror those folks. And so, if we want to live a life we've never lived before, or become more conscious or compassionate or empathetic, loving, whatever your goal is, are you hanging around people who mirror that and can help teach you how to lean into that as well? If you're looking for a community, you can always hop on over to Facebook and find the Conscious Habit community. We've got an extra spot or 2 left for our retreat in Sedona, and Paul and Sondra share a lot of really great resources where you can connect to their tribe as well. Thanks for listening to Conscious Habit, a show from the People Forward Network. If you have questions for me or our guest, or you're looking for more ways to just live or lead more consciously, head over to Facebook. We have a Conscious Habit community there. Let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, do the world a favor and go love yourself.